You are listening to a Monster Kid podcast.
Why don't we rent a video tonight?
Yeah, can we please?
On a weeknight?
Yeah, come on, Mom. It's okay.
Sure. Come on. Let's throw caution to the wind.
Put a little weekend in your week. Rent a video.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Vericon Video, a show where we relive forgotten and unforgettable movies that once lined the shelves of video stores everywhere. I'm Brandon.
And I'm Joseph.
And today we're trying to get home in time for turkey dinner. We'll be making it from New York to Chicago, battling motel clerks, rental car agencies, and airlines, all while going the wrong way. It's long overdue. It's Planes, Trains, and Automobiles from 1987, so sit back, relax, and welcome.
Welcome to the Cafe 80s, where it's always morning in America, even in the afternoon.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. I have the only gun on board. Welcome to Con Air.
Welcome to Jurassic Park.
Okay, good evening, America, and welcome aboard Apollo 13.
I'm so glad you could come. This is going to be such an exciting day. I hope you're enjoying it. I think you will.
Neil Page is traveling home for the Thanksgiving holiday, and nothing seems to be going right. His adventure kicks into full swing when he crosses paths with a nomadic shower curtain ring salesman, Dale Griffith, who makes his travels even more miserable. So, Joseph, have you ever been trying to get somewhere on time and it just seems like the universe is conspiring against you? Do you have any of those traveling nightmares?
It happens to me really often. Like, it just seems like when I'm trying to get somewhere, especially when you have a compact schedule every day and, oh my God, like 10 minutes, I have to be at this meeting or I have to be at class. And I have this 86-year-old person in front of me who feels like they don't want to go the speed limit, right? Or you wake up from a long night at work but you sleep past your alarm, like maybe not just one alarm, but 2 alarms, even 5 alarms. I don't know how that's even humanly possible, but it is for me at least. So yeah. Here I am waking up at like 10 o'clock and, class starts at 10:15 and I'm definitely not getting a speeding ticket.
Well, when we were in Greenville, like I remember that was the most insane town to get around in because especially in the last few years when we were there, like there was so much construction that would pop up.
Oh man.
And you just and I walked to school and every time there was a new sidewalk closed or I have to move over to this side. Then one time they had the entire street ripped apart.
Yep. Yeah. All 4 years I was there at ECU. It was like every year was some significant construction site.
Yeah.
It's awful.
I remember coming into town one night. I think I went to the Alamo Draft House and I was driving back from Raleigh and I'm driving into town and it's really dark. It's one of those just before you get into town. And then when I got there, there was this big barricade in the middle of the road that said road closed. And I'm like, this is the main road into town. How can you close it? And so it seemed like it was always something for me. Like I've had a few experiences that are a little bit closer to the kinds of things that happen in this movie, like that we're going to be talking about today. So I remember a couple of years ago, my mother got this wild idea that she's going to take the whole family to Salt Lake City and go skiing. It's me, my mom, my stepdad, my 2 nieces, my 2 stepsisters, and one of them's spouses. And so we're all trying to get from Nashville to Salt Lake City, and there were flight delays, there were blizzards. We were diverted to Dallas, and so we had to stay the night in Dallas, and it was just a shit show, man. I mean, it was the most miserable travel experience ever. And the worst part of it is when we were coming back and we couldn't get on the same flight together. Like we all had to take different flights back home because they were overbooked.
Oh man, that's not a logistical nightmare.
Oh,
I don't know what is.
It was the worst, man. But there's a moment. It's one of the last shots of this movie when Steve Martin and John Candy they're both side by side carrying that giant trunk across the road. And
right.
And because I remember a few years ago, I went to a conference and I had a connecting flight in Charlotte, and then I was going to fly back to Greenville. And the flight was canceled, completely canceled, because they didn't have enough people to operate the plane.
Wow.
And so I'm like, I'm stuck. I couldn't get a flight back for 2 days. And so I'm like, what am I going to do? I'm in Charlotte. So I try to rent a car to drive back. It just happened to be where the NASCAR race was that weekend. And so I could not even rent a car to go back. And I'm like, I'm stuck. And so luckily a friend of mine who lived a couple hours away came and picked me up and brought me home. Wow. And it was one of those things like where, you know, the people you really count on will come through for you. And,
I mean, it really feels like the universe is conspiring against you. It's insane.
It's kind of that Final Destination vibe, you know, where there's all these different things happening.
Exactly. Well, the one short story, then we'll move on. But since you talked about flights, I went to China the junior year of my high school years. Mm-hmm. And, you know, for those of you that have not flown overseas, I want to make sure mentally that you guys are prepared for the epic odyssey that you will endure on a 13-hour flight.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Well, right. Well, because we all know how, like you just explained, how arduous it can be just to get on a plane and go somewhere from point A to point B.
Right, yeah.
So I started at RDU, the Raleigh-Durham Airport, and I flew to Dallas. Well, the joining flight just so happened to be with a pilot who had the flu, so he couldn't make it. So they spent the next like 2 or 3 hours trying to find a pilot, which is definitely reassuring mentally. Like, I'm going to be flying a plane that has this substitute pilot. And woo, yeah. Getting your money's worth, people. Yes.
The sub, bring the sub.
Yeah, exactly. So here I am, getting on the plane, and you know the pilot goes on. He's like, "Hey, ladies and gentlemen." Oh yeah, I mean, even the accent was fantastic.
Part-time Elvis impersonator.
Nothing but a hound. Yeah. He was like, "Hey, ladies and gentlemen. So I just want you all to know I'm replacing my predecessor. And this is what he said: it will not be having any crashes today. And just make sure you listen to your flight attendants, please. Thank you. Bye." And I was like, "Oh my God, this guy." So
was this
for the next?
Yeah. I'll tell you what. I sell propane and propane accessories.
More propane. Oh my God. Yeah. So 13 hours later, I landed in Shanghai, and that was it. But yeah, guys, just mentally be prepared.
It's a whole other beast, like with customs and all the frickin' credit cards they're trying to sell you, like on the plane.
Yeah, right. And the visa and the passport that you have to have. Oh my God.
Oh yeah, yeah. A lot of work to do on the front end, but it's worth it. It's all worth it. So I encourage you if you only, I think I'd read a statistic that 33% of Americans have a passport.
Wow.
So if you don't have one, you should get one. You should go somewhere.
Yeah.
Go somewhere. Yeah. Get enlightened. Get some culture, man. So let's talk about some traveling some more. Let's dig into planes, trains, and automobiles. So let's give you a little bit of background and context. So John Candy and Steve Martin have both reportedly said this is their favorite film of their own. And Steve Martin, around Thanksgiving last year, when we were going to do this episode, you know how holidays happen, folks. But he had found this really great review of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, and he tweeted it out saying that I wish John Candy was here to read this. And it was a glowing review, and I think it is probably in my top 10 or 15. But anyway, so John Hughes, in an interview on the Those Aren't Pillows edition DVD, said he was inspired to write the film story after an actual flight from New York to Chicago he was on, and it was diverted to Wichita, Kansas, thus taking him 5 days to get home. And he wrote this first draft of the screenplay in 3 days, and his average writing time for a screenplay in those days was about 3 to 5 days, with about 20 some odd rewrites. And no surprise, because this always happens on our episodes, but John Hughes originally wanted Tom Hanks for the role of Neil Page and John Travolta for the role of Dale Griffith. But Hanks was available. He was busy shooting Big, and Paramount, those executives didn't want Travolta in the movie at all because he was considered box office poison at the time.
What a rep.
I know, and now he's straight to video poison. Like he's really bad. Like he's got that really bad, not Redbox, Movie Pass movie. Gotti.
God,
Yeah, he was in Gotti.
yeah,
And then he was in this,
jeez.
The Fanatic, I think it was called, where he was the stalker stalking Devon Sawa.
It's just like, what? You know?
Yeah, I don't know. He needs to stop. But anyhow,
Yeah.
I mean, I love some of the
It's
stuff
true.
from the 90s and the 80s, but But Steve Martin, so he was convinced to join the production after favoring two particular scenes that he had read from the script: the seat adjustment scene in the car, and then the F-word tirade at the car rental desk, which is fantastic. Can't wait to get to that. John Hughes shot over 600,000 feet, or 180,000 meters for our non-U.S. listeners, of film, almost twice the industry average. And the rumored 3-hour version, that they say that there was a 3-hour, some even say 4.5-hour version of this film, does exist in some way, but it's just a mess of footage that would take months or even years to turn into an actual film. So it's still locked away in the Paramount vault. And Hughes said most of it's probably deteriorated by now. But I don't really want a 3-hour version of that film. It is a cool hour and a half, man.
Sometimes films can drag, if you do extend it some time. And I don't know how they did it, but it's like, Marvel Endgame was 3 hours, and yet they were able to do such a phenomenal job with it. But with clean humor, like classic humor, I'll be using the word classic a lot in this film just because of how good it is. For humor to be good, it doesn't need to be long. It just needs to be satisfaction. And this movie did it beautifully.
I agree. It's very, very tight. It's very, very tight. Let's see our last little bit here. So according to the editor, Paul Hirsch, the original cut of this movie was, like I said, about 3 hours and 40 minutes, according to him. And he and Hughes edited it down to 2 hours. And this was test screen. And this was probably what was used to edit trailers for the film. Because if you look at the trailers, there's a lot of stuff in there that is not in the film at all. And the movie was edited down again to 1 hour and 33 minutes for its theatrical release. And Hirsch says that he believes that 2-hour version still exists somewhere, but just doesn't know where. There's a lot of content that didn't make it into the final cut, but like most deleted stuff, it's for a reason.
Right.
Reportedly, Elton John wrote a song for this movie, but during that whole process of getting it into the movie, there was some deal with the representatives who owned the rights to it, and that song has not been released to this day. I don't even know what it's called. And something that kind of bugs me, and I've tweeted this a lot, and I tell people this all the time, and no one cares. But the re-release of the DVD and Blu-ray, and even the artwork that they have on streaming services, they've added all of this Christmas stuff into the poster. So you've got this Christmas tree, or you've got these presents, this North Pole thing they're standing beside, and there's candy canes and all this. This movie has nothing to do with Christmas. This takes place 2 days before Thanksgiving.
I can see your hesitation here. Okay. So number one, you can add me to that supporter list of your cause.
Good. Thank you.
Petition
Thank
this. Yes,
I will. I'll put you on the mailing list.
Good. Oh my God. But they're separate holidays for a reason, y'all. I know they're like 3 weeks apart. Yeah. But still, they're separate holidays. For those of you like, oh, it's all one season. No, fuck off. Like, come on. We're all one family, big happy family, eating turkey on Thanksgiving. Oh, but then the family leaves, and some just don't want to come back for Christmas, because they're like, oh, I want to spend it up here. Oh, well, I want to spend it down here. So screw up, So,
I can see that they would do that to try to sell it as a Christmas movie around the holiday season. But I don't know. Even around Thanksgiving, there aren't really many Thanksgiving movies,
right,
that you can think of. Oh, Charlie Brown Thanksgiving or whatever. But
that's pretty much it.
That's pretty much it. But this would come on TV every year around Thanksgiving. They would show this and The Wizard of Oz. I don't know why they would show The Wizard of Oz around Thanksgiving, but this was one of those movies that, like, every Thanksgiving, like, I had to be at the ready to watch it. Like, it was that good to me.
Right. I mean, it's almost as good as seeing Charlie Brown Christmas on Christmas. It's a must. It's just a must. Add to the collection movie. Right.
I mean, it's appropriate. Like, I can see, I would be really disappointed if I bought something thinking it was a Christmas movie and it had nothing to do with Christmas.
Yeah, exactly.
But I digress. Well, Well, let's take a little stroll through this movie. Let's take a few planes, trains, and automobiles through this movie. How about that?
Nice. I'm ready for it. Let's do it.
And now, our feature presentation.
All right, let's do it. So we open in New York City 2 days before Thanksgiving. We're in this conference room. We meet Neil Page, played by Steve Martin, and his buddy. This is the guy, the dad from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And they're waiting on their boss to make a decision. It's like they're in marketing. So they're waiting on their boss to make a decision on these 3 ads that had been proposed. And Neil's just looking at his watch. He's like, I gotta go. Because he's trying to make this plane to get home to Chicago. And so he leaves, and everybody's trying to get a cab. And so he sees one, this other guy, but it's Kevin Bacon, of course.
Out of all people.
Out of all people. So he races Kevin Bacon for this cab, and we get some nice little cheesy 80s music there. And he's hustling, too. Like, he's really trying to beat Kevin Bacon to that cab, and he falls over this trunk. Kevin Bacon takes the cab. But there's this guy, this lawyer. He's like this British dude. He's trying to get this cab. He's like, hey, could you find it in your good nature to just let me have it? The guy's like, I don't have a good nature. Excuse me. He offers him $10, $20, and the guy keeps bumping it up. $50 for a cab. Like, oh, anybody would pay $50 for a cab. Certainly pay $75. Not necessarily, but it's great. So he pays the guy, and then meanwhile, someone else is getting into this cab, and by the time he's paid the guy off, the cab's gone. And I love this shot. I'd never noticed this before, but if you look into this puddle where the cab used to be, there are 2 shower curtain rings.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I never knew that. And it's such a great little detail, as we'll later find out why. But like, I've never hailed a cab before. Have you done anything like that, like when you're traveling?
Yeah, once. And it was actually in DC. I was in 8th grade, right? This 8th grade little kid. We were all going to go see the museum, which had just opened up, like the whole big thing about news broadcasting media in DC. And so there was this cab on the side of the road and all this. It was just, somebody had just gotten out of it. So I run up there because I'm like, there's no way in hell I'm walking down to the museum like this far away. Get down there. I hold the cab, and it was this Indian guy. I was like, yo, just hold on real quick, because everyone else was like 5 minutes away. So I was like, I got to hold this guy for 5 minutes. And so his name was Yashir Patel. I don't know why I still remember his name. Please, my brain's weird. And so I'm like, I started talking to him about Star Wars. Okay. Mm-hmm. Holding a cab driver for 5 minutes talking about Star Wars. So I'm like, yo, so you remember like Revenge of the Sith? He's like, what did that Sith?
What is that
talking about? And all of a sudden I see my Boy Scouts coming over. So yeah, I held him for 5 minutes. That was the only time I held a cab. So get in the weirdest situations, Brandon.
I do too. So Neil's having a hard time getting this cab. So he catches up to it at a red light, and he opens the door, and this is, as we'll later find out, is Dale Griffith, played by the great late John Candy. And he's got this really surprised look on his face. And so then it takes off, the cab runs over his briefcase, and Neil's hustling through the airport, Home Alone style. And as soon as he gets to the gate, the flight is delayed.
Wow.
So, I mean, a pretty simple, straightforward setup here. But this is something I want to talk about, because I don't know how I feel about it. So we often will go back to the Page family. So we'll go to Neil's wife and his 3 children. They have nothing to do in this movie except wait.
Of course.
So I don't know. Yeah. What did you make of that? Because every now and then we'll get like a cut back to, the wife waiting up late at night, watching TV, or she's asleep. I don't know. They're just not integral to the story.
Yeah, of course. I've got mixed feelings about it too, and I've actually come up with several conclusions as to why they did that. The first one is they're a filler, and that's strictly what it is. They're a filler. They allow transition scenes. They give, I guess, some type of story into the family, but that story is so dry that we are talking about it. I think it's definitely a filler. That's my first conclusion. My second conclusion is that it allows more feeling, some empathy towards what a family can be in this type of atmosphere. The stress or other battling angles that are going on besides the main plot that we're focused on, I would really just go with a filler, because that's what it seems like. Their presence is so dry that I'm just like, okay, next scene. What the fuck? So, yeah.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, we don't really. You have no reason to care for them. Like, really, it's
at all.
It's
right.
just a reason, or it's just to telegraph to the audience that, hey, this is why Neil is trying to get home. Like, he has a family. Like, we put faces to his family. Like, we don't know his kids' names or his wife's name or anything. But,
right. I mean, because we're so concentrated on Neil that we're like, why does it have to be anybody else? Yeah, you're right. The whole family-esque atmosphere, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we just need to know that he is a family man, you know, in a classic sort of way. So this chair, man, needs its WD-40. But as Neil sits down to wait it out, he recognizes Dale across from him. So Dale is reading this book called The Canadian Mounted. It's this like romance novel, man. It's a nice
read this book.
Yeah, I hope it's a real book. But it's funny because, you know, like John Candy, he was Canadian, so it's probably a little joke there. But Dell is like, hey, you know, I know you, don't I? And what I love though is we get this shot where Neil he's looking at Dell. It's like, he looks really familiar, and he just can't put his finger on it. Then we see that shot of just John Candy, and he's in a surprised look, like from the cab, and he's like, oh yeah, that guy. And so he's like, yeah, you tried to steal my cab. And then Dell's like, oh, I've never stolen anything before in my life. Oh, you're the guy who tried to get my cab. You know, I knew you. Yeah, you scared the bejesus out of me. And he finally realizes, oh, you know, it was really easy getting a cab during rush hour. And, oh, man, I'm really sorry. Like, let me make it up to you. Let me buy a nice hot dog and a beer. And so he goes through this whole list of things like, how about a coffee, tea, Slurpee, soda, Lifesavers? Sir, please.
It's almost as like he was doing a drive-in total of all. The
it kind of was. Oh, by the way, so no drive-in totals for this episode. I tried and I just could not get enough material to really make it work. So next time we'll get back to that.
This ought to show everybody how much effort it takes to do a drive-in total. So just, you know, future appreciation for Brandon's skill.
Yeah. It takes some time. So they get on the plane, and what I really like is that as they're boarding, Neil has a first class ticket, but for some reason it's full, or that's what the flight attendant says. She's like, oh, just go, you know, you have a coach seat assignment. And then this other flight attendant comes in and he's like, oh, hi, Liz. Mwah, you know, kisses her. It's like, oh, do you mind if I sit here? Oh, here, there, anywhere is fine. And it's just burning Neil's ass. Yeah. So she gets a little lippy, and then he gets lippy back with her. And then just when you think things can't get any worse, he's sitting next to Dell.
Of course, out of all people. Right.
Out of all people. So he's in coach. And we learn that Dell is a shower curtain ring salesman. Best in the world. Which I mean, this is what, 87. I hope and pray that this is still someone's job.
I was about to say, yeah.
A traveling shower curtain ring salesman.
How would you like to have on your resume that title?
You know what? If I saw a resume with that on it, it would immediately go to a short list for interviews, because I would want to find out about this job, because I know this guy's got stories.
With a bachelor's degree in business from ECU.
Snowstorms, flights canceled and delayed in Chicago. And we see the exterior of the aircraft in flight. Now, this is just a reuse of the 707 flying through the storm in the movie Airplane, which was also a Paramount Pictures thing. So that was, well, I don't know, 1980 or something like that. And we learn that Neil is in marketing, and Dale is going on and on about people who don't know when to stop talking, which is really, really great. Because I think the line is, Neil says, you know, I'm not much of a conversationalist. He's like, oh, yeah, I understand. Yeah. Something I never understood is people who don't know when to keep their big mouth shut. You know,
right. So let's fill this much needed silence with just continuous talking.
Right. I like a comfortable silence. Like, I'm not uncomfortable with silence. Like, I like it. But some people, they can't deal with that. Like, they have to fill it with something.
Just why, you know? Like, just enjoy the moment without vocal cord necessities and
vocal cord necessities. That sounds like an album title.
Yeah. Yeah,
vocal cord
be.
necessities.
Featuring
The likes of. Let's see. So Neil's in marketing. Dell he takes his shoes off on the plane and he's just making a big show of his, oh boy, that feels good. My dog's really barking today. he takes his socks off and he's like helicoptering them. Oh my God. I love this so much because Neil he doesn't say anything. He's just kind of moving his head around, like trying to miss the sock helicopter. But there's
the smell.
Oh God. Yeah. Yeah. And he's just, he's just so loud and got a big mouth. There's a deleted scene here. I meant to send you the link. We'll share it on Twitter. But there is a deleted scene from this bit on the plane where they get their airline meal, their in-flight meal. And of course, Neil has this really shitty looking overheated lasagna thing. Dell has this, I think he called it seafood salad. And he's like, oh, whenever I fly this airline, I always order a special meal. So he's got this great meal. And Neil just can't, he's like, I don't want any of this. And so Dell takes some of it off his hands and he gives some of it to the passenger on the other side of Neil. But Neil's like, I want the brownie. I want the brownie. And so just as he's about to go for the brownie, the person sitting in the seat in front of him has this really long hair that falls back and it just covers his brownie. And that part is hilarious. But what I like best is Dell is like, hey, do you mind if I have the brownie? And so he is reaching through this hair. He's pulling this hair apart to get the brownie.
Oh man.
They
should have kept it in the movie.
That
would have been so good.
I really like it. It's kind of a slow moving scene, but the gag is really good. So I'll send that to you and everybody else. So lights out. There's this old guy on Neil's right. He's sleeping. Dell's on his left. Dell wakes up long enough just to say $6 and my right nut says we're not landing in Chicago. We're back at the Page's house. Now this house, by the way, was a set. This was built from scratch. It had 7 rooms and it took 5 months to complete. It ended up costing $100,000, which Paramount wasn't happy about. The exterior of Neil's family home is in Kenilworth, Illinois, on Warwick. This house, the house used in Home Alone, was on Lincoln Avenue in, I think you say this Winnetka, this one town over. And if you look at that, the houses look very, very similar.
It's beautiful. They did a good job. Got to admit.
Oh yeah, yeah. So Neil and Dell, they're in Wichita, couldn't land in Chicago, so they're stuck. And then we get a little cameo here from Ben Stein on the PA. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry to announce that Flight 909 has been canceled due to severe weather in Chicago. He's just dry.
That's accurate.
He's so dry, Which I want to know what happened to Ben Stein. You remember that show about Ben Stein's money? Was it When Ben Stein's Money?
When Ben Stein, Ben Stein's money. That's what it was. Yep.
Yeah, with Jimmy Kimmel. I think he was the co-host on that show.
Yeah, good memory.
So they don't have any luck with a hotel, but Dell, while Neil was phoning home, Dell called the Braidwood Inn, and he's got a room if Neil picks up the cab fare. And so they're Doobie's Taxiola. It's this decked out taxi on hydraulics, and it's got all of this really kind of racy stuff in it. And this actor, I can't remember his name for the life of me. I've seen him in a ton of stuff, but he's, let's say he was in Billy Madison and what was it? Oh, he's on that show Breaking Bad, I think. He's on Breaking Bad. But Neil's getting impatient. He's like, where the hell is the motel? And so, Doobie, is it much farther? He's like, oh, you said your friend wasn't from around here, so I thought he might want to look around. It's the middle of the night. So they're just driving around Wichita. And so they get there. They get to the hotel. Dell has some jokes with Gus, the owner. And this is a little thing that is easily missable, but he introduces Gus to Neil, and Gus is like, oh, nice to meet you, Nick. It's just a nice little thing. But in the process, as Gus is processing their credit cards, and this is on the old, the old school system, like where they do they put the slip of carbon paper and slide that thing back and forth.
Right. I've seen that. Yeah.
And they get their identical Diners Club credit cards swapped. And this will play out later on in the movie. But it's the last room in the place. And when we go in here, I love this shot where we just pan over the room, over the bed, over to the wall and the desk, and then quick pan back to the bed. we get that little bit.
That was awesome.
It's just like a queen size bed, or maybe in a full size bed. It's not very big, and just the anxiety on their face about like, oh, well, what are we gonna do about this? And so they're trying to break the tensions. Oh, how about that cat ride? Oh yeah, you don't see cabs like that anymore. We got
and the manner of which they fit on this bed is like hilarious.
Oh, I know. Yeah, like it's and John Candy's a big guy, and Steve Martin's pretty small, but yeah, like they're barely on this bed, and they.
Oh my gosh.
They're not able to get comfortable. But what really quick before we get into the sleepy time here, Neil takes a shower. Well, first he asks Dell, he's like, want to take a shower? No. Oh no, I mean if you wanted to. Oh, I thought you meant like they're a little homophobic moment there. Thought you want to shower together. Oh no, not me.
You go first. No,
you
me.
Go
no,
first.
you.
but what I love is that Dell, he's unpacking, but Neil is in the shower and he looks at the shower curtain rings, and he kind of looks back in Dell's direction. It's kind of this, he's a quirky guy, but I'm just going to enjoy my shower. Well, it loses water pressure. And has that ever happened to you? Like when you're taking a shower and then there's just like no water
at all? Yeah.
That's happened to me a few times. But it's worse when it just becomes a trickle. Like it's just a tease. You know what I mean? Like it's just like,
right.
I was giving you all this water. Now I'm just going to give you this.
Oh man, that's the worst.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. But God, I'm in rare form today. So we see this framed photo that Dell's been carrying around. This is of his wife, Marie. And I think it's in this scene, or it might be whenever we cut back to the wife, Neil's wife. But the movie She's Having a Baby is on the television. You can hear the dialogue. But the film hadn't even been released yet.
Which is I looked that up. Yeah.
I thought it was pretty cool. And both movies feature Kevin Bacon and John Candy in them.
It's fantastic.
And I thought that was pretty neat. He's smoking. Dell is smoking. And he's got all these wet towels everywhere. All the towels are wet. And he's on this vibrating bed that you put a coin into. And there's a moment where
collection.
I know. And there's a moment where like you can tell that this, the sound effect has been added in post, but there's a moment where John Candy's on the bed and there's a moment where he's kind of rocking a little bit. I don't know, how do I explain this? In the sound design, like you can hear the like it kind of hitches a little bit, like something's not working right, and he's trying to get it back going the right way. It's just a nice little detail like that. But Neil gets out of the shower and all these towels are wet. It's gross, laying all over the floor.
I would have died if the comment was mentioned. Like,
I lost you for a second. Sorry.
You lost me?
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
Sorry.
It must be my vocal cord necessities.
Your vocal cord necessities. Cha-ching. I love it. So there's one little washcloth left. And the music here is really great. It's very, very delicate. I don't know. How would you describe it, Music Man?
Well, you see here, it's like finding one little cloth in a abundance of moist, wet towels. It's like seeing one little green stem of a plant in an entire drought of a black dryness of ash, and just the beauty in that is just so profound, and I can't even begin to describe it.
Yeah, I mean, the music sounds like something from the Nutcracker or something.
Yeah, it's so like
little plucked strings. Yeah, there's something uplifting about it and humorous. And it's also, I mean, Steve Martin is really selling the scene too, because he's got this little cloth and he's trying to figure, like he even does his back with the cloth, like a towel, like a giant towel. And it's, I don't know, it's just funny. Like the whole scene works really, really well. So they're in bed and they're trying to get comfortable. And we learned that Dale had left a 6-pack of beer on this vibrating bed. And I guess they exploded and Neil is having to sleep in a puddle of beer.
My God. How would you feel about that? Like just waking up and you're just room temperature beer at like, oh, geez, I can't even think about that.
I think I would be where Neil is, where it's just like, let's just get some sleep. Let's just get some sleep. This has been a shitty day. shitty day and I'm sleeping next to this guy I really can't stand right now. Dell, he's trying to get comfortable and he starts reading his book by the light of his cigarette lighter. I mean, how long can you read like that?
That's what I'm gonna say.
Like that's gonna get really hot in your hand, and it's gonna. I mean, I don't know how long a cigarette lighter will last. Like if you just leave it going, but surely that can't be good.
There's so many negatives that come out of this.
I know, like something they would catch fire or something,
right?
And they would have to call you.
Paper would catch fire.
They'd have to call you, come save them.
Exactly. Yep. It's 911. That's all it takes, guys. Listeners, remember that.
Is it true? I mean, let me ask you that, Mr. EMS man. From your experience or from what you've heard from other people that you work with, is Thanksgiving and Christmas as bad as I hear? Like that's the time that you're the most busy? Because people are trying to cook a turkey and they burn their kitchen down or something like that.
That's actually a yes and no answer to that question. And there's only one reason why. So on Christmas Day, hardly anything happens. And that's only because people are home and not in their cars.
Yeah, that's true.
However, it's funny how this works because Thanksgiving that night, which by the way is why we couldn't do this episode, ladies and gentlemen, because I was working. So that night I had a call where a lady was just passed the fuck out, like just completely wiped from drinking too much wine. Okay. She was with some friends and apparently her friend was just overcooked her meat. And the turkey was just fried, like, National Lampoon's 101. It was fantastic. And so we get there, me and my partner get there, the fire department is behind us and we all go in at the same time. And on the scene, here is this 70-something-year-old woman just sprawled out on the floor, covered in her own throw up. and her friends just casually, like there's no emotion whatsoever of, oh my God, please help. No, that's exact opposite. Okay. Her friend is standing up having some wine. She's like, oh, can y'all help my friend? She's just so clumsy. I was having such a good time tonight. Happy Thanksgiving. Here's her friend just covered in throw up, like having respiration distress. like she can't breathe. And her friend's just casually like, oh yeah, whatever. The friend's husband, he's like, yo, you guys want her medications? I got him for you.
What?
Yeah. Oh my God. So lo and behold, here I am trying to help this woman off the floor. The smell was so vile.
Oh, I can imagine.
And awful. Here we are getting her on the stretcher and she's like, where's my cigarette? Here we are. We transport her to the hospital. We get into the ER, transfer her to the hospital staff. And I'm wiping down the stretcher from all that gross shit. And the bottle I pick up, I didn't read it because I'm like, well, all wipes are the same. No, they're really not, Joseph, dumbass. And so I grabbed the bleach wiper container. I use my gloves and I'm wiping down the stretcher. All of a sudden, I'm touching my sweater to get off the throw up. Mm-hmm. And as I'm getting off the throw up with the wipe, all of a sudden my black sweater turns red. And I'm like, what is this stuff? And then all of a sudden I smell bleach. I'm like, oh, shit. So here I am, a walking battling guy who just punched someone in the face, it looked like, because I've got all this dry blood on my sweater. So that was the first call of the night. It was fantastic.
Wow, that's crazy, man. I bet that is a really fascinating job. Like you just never know what you're going to walk into.
Right, especially on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So, yeah, good stuff.
Mrs. Page, she's at home. She's trying to stay awake. She's watching that movie. Dell is cracking his knuckles and is popping his neck. And then I think my favorite bit of this is he's scratching an itch that you can't see it. Like you just hear this.
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah, you just hear the scratching.
It's like, and Neil is just wanting to get some sleep, man. Like I will say that even though he is a very uptight kind of person, he is remarkably silent about a lot of this. Like he could lash out. I mean, well, he's about to, but he's taking it like a champ. Let's see, Mrs. Page, she's asleep. We just check in with her, and Dell starts clearing his throat. This is the last straw for now because he's.
It's about to come out. This is by far the best scene in the movie, guys. I just want to point that out.
Oh, it's great because John Candy is just hamming it up. He's He's just making these crazy sounds, and he apologizes. But then the last straw is when he does shave and a haircut. And we talked about this in the last episode with Random Movie Roulette on Who Framed Roger Rabbit. The shave and a haircut, 2 bits, the dun 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 dun, and he goes. Neil jumps to his feet and he's getting dressed. Like he just can't take it anymore. He's going to leave. Dell says that you're hostile, you're intolerant, and you're an ungrateful jackass. Neil is unloading all the feelings that he has been compiling since these two met. He's going on about Dell. You smoke and you spill beer all over the bed and you have all these anecdotes. Like everything's not an anecdote. You have to discriminate and you have to have a point. And Neil doesn't realize how mean and hurtful he's being. But we can see it on Dell's face. And who was that talked my ear off on the plane? Who was it? I'm curious. It's just like going out on a date with a chatty Cathy doll. It's like you got a little string he pulls out and it snaps back. Only I wouldn't be pulling the string. You would. And it's just because he just, I mean, we all have come across people like that who just don't know when to stop talking. He says, I could take any insurance seminar for days. I could go on with a big smile on my face. And they say, how can you stand it? So I've been with Del Griffith. I can take anything.
It's so true.
This moment here where Del comes back at him is so great. Like we know so much about these two in 25 minutes.
You want to hurt me? Go right ahead if it makes you feel any better. I'm an easy target. Yeah, you're right. I talk too much. I also listen too much. I could be a cold-hearted cynic like you. But I don't like to hurt people's feelings. Well, you think what you want about me. I'm not changing. I like me. My wife likes me. My customers like me. Because I'm the real article. What you see is what you get.
Steve Martin really, like he's doing some great acting here. Like it's subtle, but like Neil realizes how mean he's being.
Exactly. And this is why this movie is great. You get two guys. That's all it takes. Two actors or two actresses, right? And you put them in a situation where they have to get to know each other.
Right.
And you do that. And if they do a great job, oh my God, the movie's made.
Right. No, absolutely. It's one of the things like where you have two really well fleshed out characters and we're only 25 minutes in and we know so much about like who Del is as a person that he is. I mean, he's got a big mouth. He talks too much. He's a slob, but he's authentic. That's who he is. And I think it's all about Neil not only realizing like how uptight and judgmental he is, but also he learns to put those differences aside.
Yeah.
So Neil gives in. He undresses and goes back. He gets back in bed. And there's something that Del does that I hadn't really noticed before, but there are moments where like I know people do this, but I can't really put words to it. I don't really know what to call it, but it's like when you need help moving something, like later on, whenever they're trying to get the luggage out of the middle of the road, like when they're in the car, and Dell's like, "Oh, my back! Oh, it hurts! And so Neil has to go and help him. Like he's kind of putting on this act.
It's like a show.
Yeah. And he kind of does it. This is when he starts doing it. Like Dell goes to bed, all huffy and everything, and then as Neil is deciding if he's going to stay or go, he looks up and Dell's looking back at him, and then he like lays back down real quick. He's like wanting to make it a point that, hey, you've hurt my feelings, kind of thing. So I think that's pretty cool. So while they're asleep, this thief breaks in and he robs them while they're asleep, takes all their money out of their wallet. This guy, you don't really see him very well. He's in shadow, but this is Gary Riley. And if you look at his IMDb page, he was a staple in a lot of 80s and 90s movies like Stand By Me and Summer School, Fear. It seemed like there was another big one I recognized him from. Yeah,
he's a good supporting actor.
Yeah,
he's really decent in that role.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think where about in his career this came along. Like he was in a lot of TV movies and TV series. Yeah, I mean, after this movie, he was in something called Lost Angels, a show called Doctor, and Fear with Reese Witherspoon and Mark Wahlberg, which is also a really good thriller.
That was huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then never again. So anyway, so he robs them, and then I love this. The next morning when they wake up, and the soundtrack to this movie is really good. They're playing this "I'm Back in Baby's Arms." They're all snuggled up together, and Dell kisses him on the ear. So Dell, why did you kiss my ear? Why are you holding my hand? Where's your other hand? Between two pillows. Those aren't pillows. It's just, and they both jump up out of bed, and we get this stinger in the music, and all like grossed out. And they revert back to that hyper masculine attitude. Oh, you see that Bears game last week? Oh, hell of a game. Yeah, they're going to go all the way this year.
And the Bears were actually really good.
Were they? I don't really follow football or anything, but I mean, just to give you an idea, like whenever I was still in Tennessee, someone was trying to give me Predators tickets, and I was like, no, that's all right. I'm not really into football. Didn't even realize, that's Predators for the hockey. That's hockey. Yeah. We're the Titans. Yeah, which I hear the Titans doing pretty good.
They were. Well, it's funny because they beat the Patriots, then they beat the Ravens. Granted, the Patriots were not like the hottest team in the NFL, but they were still something to compete against. But the Ravens were. Mm-hmm. They were the hottest team, and they beat the Ravens. And so the Titans go all the way up to the AFC Championship game and then lose to the Chiefs. But that has never happened before in a while, where one team, like an underdog, such as the Titans, would do that. Yeah.
Really go cool. Titans, people.
Go Titans.
So Neil is in the bathroom, and he's trying to splash some water on his face, and he looks down, and it's Dell's like socks in the sink, and the water's all brown and gross.
Jeez.
And he wipes his face, and it's just Dale's, whitey tidies, but they're humongous. It's like this giant bath towel. It's like, hey Neil, if you're gonna brush your teeth, be sure to take my socks out of the sink. All right. It's like gross, and just his face, Neil's face. It's just like, oh my God.
Imagine how that place smelled.
Oh, I bet it was foul, man. I bet it was foul.
Oh my gosh.
And so the next morning, they leave the hotel to get some breakfast, and they have plans to get on a train. And when Neil goes to pay for the meal, there's no money in there. And he accuses Dale of stealing Neil's wallet. And he says that he had over $700 in there.
Wow.
Have you ever carried that much cash on you?
Wow. No, I don't know why I would.
Right. I mean, he's got some credit cards. We've seen his credit cards. He's got a Diners Club. He's got a Visa and some other things. He's got like at least 3 of them. I know he was going from New York to Chicago, but he was flying. And so I don't know why.
Maybe it was just life savings.
Yeah. Doesn't believe in banks. Neil Page doesn't believe in banks. He's going to carry me out.
Life sharing in my wallet, boys and girls.
Golly. Dell says, okay, here's my wallet. There's $263 in there. If there's $1 more, then you can call me a thief. And of course it's empty too. So they were both robbed. And so they decide that they're going to just charge their way home. But really Neil's credit cards are the only ones that are good, because I think Dell just had one to something big and tall man shop, a Pacific Northwest chain. He's like, great stuff. They just does us no good here. And so it's all up to Neil to carry the load. And Gus, the owner of the Braidwood Inn, his son, Owen, is going to pick them up in his truck. So here he shows up. And this is played by the great Dylan Baker in an early role. He gets out. He's got some tobacco he's spitting up. And he's just, I'm Owen. He's doing this thing with his hat. It's pretty funny. He said, I'm supposed to take you to Wichita to catch a train. Like, yeah, that's right. So, train don't run out of Wichita unless you're a hog or a cattle. People's train run out of Stubbville. so that's a little bit farther of a haul. So they're going to go, and they get in the back of the truck, and off they go. And there's this dog in the back because they're freezing. The temperature is 1, Dell says. Neil's reaching down for this glove, and this dog pops out of the hay and starts snapping at him. He's like, give him the goddamn glove. This dog is ferocious. That they make it to the train station, and they're parting ways. So, it's been interesting. Dale says, okay, well, send me your address so I can pay you back for this ticket. It's a gift. So it's a nice little parting. Like, yeah, we've had a little adventure, but they don't know that their adventure's not over yet.
Exactly. The universe has much more in store.
Yeah. And I don't know if it's this train or if it's the one later in the movie, but the train from this movie, it sits dormant currently at a small rural station in the western New York town of Gowanda. Not Wakanda, it's Gowanda. There's this contract logo on the engine and the cars, and it's been unused since the making of this film, but apparently it's still out there in the world. So Neil is having some small talk on the train with this fellow passenger, which to me, I mean, he's kind of jolly, like he's got that feeling he's going home. And you're going home for Thanksgiving? So, yeah, I'm just gonna make it. Haha. Do you make small talk with people when you're on like a plane or anything like that?
Unfortunately.
You seem well, you're a chatty guy. Like, I mean, you seem like the type.
Yeah, you know me very well. Yeah, Brandon. I'm one of those that will probably like, even if the person, because I can tell people in their signals. If I say something, so if I say something just for small talk and I get maybe one or two words, I don't talk for the rest of the day. Like, that's it for me. But if they continue and have some small talk, that's what I'll do. But I will never, ever continue a conversation to the point where I get their number or anything of personal.
Oh, right.
Like,
let's keep in touch. We've really hit it off on this hour plane ride.
Exactly. And like, why? Because I know people who do that.
Oh,
and
yeah. My mother is a prime example. Like she just retired last year, and my stepdad's already retired. And so they're doing a lot of kind of bucket list traveling right now. And whenever I see photos or hear the stories, it's like, oh, and this is the person I met on the plane, or this was our concierge on the cruise or whatever, and we're Facebook friends now and all this stuff. She will ask a person's entire life history.
Right.
Dating or having friends
crazy.
Even was almost impossible, because it was like, okay, you're about to be interviewed by my parents, so just prepare yourself.
Right.
But I'm the complete opposite. Like, I'm not. I mean, those of you who know me, I'm socially awkward. Doing this podcast is a challenge. The irony is like I was the kind of person to never speak in class. I didn't like it. But now, ironically, that's my job.
A teacher. You're a teacher,
I'm a teacher, yeah. And it's just like every day I'm like, how am I doing this? So, I mean, I'll be the kind of person to put earbuds in my ears with no music, just so people like wouldn't attempt to talk to me.
Silence. Yeah. I mean, silence is a gift. Yeah. And you know what's funny is I always thought I was an extrovert until I looked up like the meaning of introverts.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And God bless introverts. I just want to say to everybody, because I need quiet space like you.
Yeah.
I need to be alone. The less talk, the better.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of, our peeps in the Monster Kid podcast community I think a lot of them would identify as introverts too. And so God bless us, everyone.
Right. Everyone. Exactly. The end.
So the train breaks down, of course. They have to deboard or detrain. I'm not really sure what the word is, but they I don't know. It's kind of like, I don't know. I feel like this is turning into like a stand-up bit, but it's like whenever you're boarding a plane, there's pre-boarding. And okay, we're going to ask all of our super cool Ruby card holders to board the plane. I don't know. Just the concept of pre-boarding is weird to me.
The English language is just interesting in general.
Yeah, it's like, why is
boarding, post-boarding?
Right? Why can't it just be boarding?
Just boarding. Guys.
Yeah, like when you're pre-boarding, you're boarding people on the plane. I don't know. Someone explain this to me. Squeaky chair. Sorry. Oh boy! So the one of the guys tells Neil that it's a 1.5 mile walk to these buses, and those will take you into Jefferson City. And so this is one of the moments I was talking about where Neil sees Dell, and Dell looks back like he's trying to find Neil, and he's struggling with this gigantic trunk that he's carrying around. And Neil just kind of rolls his eyes and is like, okay. So he runs up to him and helps him with the trunk. Just that look that he gives him. It's just like how does this guy get around on his own?
It's like the look of, I want to say something, but I'm not, because he's in his element. So whatever.
Yeah.
It's
But I
awesome.
think in this moment, like I realized something about Dell that I hadn't noticed before, in that like he wants to keep Neil around. I think like he's
right.
There's something we're going to get to later where we find out he's very lonely, you know, and I think he is a very social person. He has that personality where he thrives in the presence of other people, like, and to make them laugh or make them smile. And so I think that even as a salesman, he takes great pleasure in that. And so I think that it's partly not to say, oh, well, I'm lazy, I'm not going to, I need some help with this trunk. It's like here's like a silent invitation to continue the adventure in some way.
I can argue that this might be one of the major climax scenes of this film, just because we didn't see a lot of friend qualities before in between both of these characters, but only because they had maybe some moments away from each other and then reconnect like this.
Yeah, we
see an automatic, intimate connection between both people, which is beautiful. It's absolutely
that's beautiful. A really good point, because we can see the nature, or we can begin to understand the nature of their friendship, or their friendship in the works. Like, you think that they genuinely missed each other, but in an endearing sort of way. So there are things about Neil that Dell finds intolerable, and vice versa. But I think that, that in this moment when they're reunited, it feels good to them. It feels right to them, but it feels right to us too. Like, we know, like, we like seeing them together, which is, at the heart of this movie, and at the heart of its success. It's not, the wife and kids back home that aren't serving much of a purpose. It's just these two really lovable characters and their shenanigans. Dale says, this is probably a good time to tell you that our tickets are only good to St. Louis, and some more bad news. And so, but they're on the bus. Everybody's singing songs, trying to pass the time. It's like, oh, who's got a song? Who's got a song? I got one. Neil Page has got one. 3 coins in a fountain. And he starts singing this song, and everybody turns around like, what the fuck are you singing? And he just kind of fizzles out like, oh, or something.
Vocal cord necessity.
And then, of course, Dale bursts in. The Flintstones, meet the Flintstones. And then everybody just joins right in. The Flintstones was reportedly John Candy's all-time favorite cartoon. So that's probably why how I got in there. And they're trying to make a little extra money. So Dell, he's selling the sizzle, man. He's hustling. He's selling these shower curtain rings as earrings. And I love his hustle, man. It's like,
that's beautiful. This is
your Walter Cronkite moon ring. This is your Daryl Strawberry autographed earring. There's a moment where it's off camera, but you can hear him talking. He's like, and these were actually handcrafted for the Grand Wizard of China. These are not, of course, the originals. They're replicas, very good replicas. So he's really selling 2 for $7, man. That's a good price. That's a good price right there for some shower curtain rings.
His salesman is just like in the bright spot right now.
Yeah, and they're filled with. He's got those clear ones. He's like, and they're filled with helium, so they're very light. Oh my god! So
I feel like this is like a replica of how meaningless of how Seinfeld this is, like compared to American Psycho.
Oh right, yeah.
Reading the business cards.
Yeah, I got that vibe too. Yeah. So he's doing all this while Neil's trying to call home. I think he gets like $100 or something like that, and they're at this diner, and they're having this little chat. They're just talking about life and stuff. And Dell says, there are precious moments in your life that you'll never get back again. And Neil confesses I've been spending too much time away from home. And Dell says he hasn't been home for years, but he doesn't seem to want to elaborate on that. Which I think in the context of the movie, like, you don't really think much of it until later. But anyway, so they don't have any luck with the airlines. And Neil says, when we put our heads together, and Dell's looking at him really excited and expectantly, and so we just get nowhere. So maybe it's just best if we go our separate ways. And Dale is crushed. He's very offended, and he's like, okay, well, if that's what you want to do. So here's a little money. Let me just take care of this, and here's some money. Go buy your kid a cookie or something.
You can see the emotion.
Oh yeah,
you can just feel it.
He's frantic, and he's just his mouth is going a mile a minute, and Neil's like, well, okay, well, I'm not going to take your money. I'm just going to leave it. Well, leave it. Just leave it. That's fine. And good luck to you. And Hope you get home soon. Yeah, sure you will. Just really huffy about it. And so Dell leaves. Oh, and then we're getting some good stuff here. So Neil takes the shuttle to this rental car pickup at the airport, and the car isn't there. And he can't catch back up with the bus to take him back. And he just loses his mind. He just goes ape shit in this moment. He's
ballistic.
He's ripping up his rental agreement, and he's like, God damn it. And he's just punching the air. And I love this music too. The music's just really good.
This whole soundtrack's just unbelievable.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really, really appropriate. Even that rock and roll tune and Doobie's Taxiola, or that really upbeat, what is it, Emmylou Harris, or that the whole Back in Baby's Arms. And it's just really, really good.
Yeah.
So he walks along the interstate and down the ramp in the snow, and he comes out just a big mess. When he gets back into the airport, he's still carrying his bag somehow. I don't know how he's managed to keep up with this briefcase and this garment bag he's been carrying around, which he eventually loses at some point. He's in line at the Marathon rental desk, and the clerk. This is Edie McClurg playing the clerk. She is probably best known for being the school secretary in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And she is just delightful in this. So she's just talking to somebody on the phone. Okay, so this scene is exactly 1 minute long from the time C. Martin starts his tirade to the time the attendant ends the scene. And in that 60 seconds, the word fucking is used 18 times. And the film would have been easily rated a PG or PG-13, and it would have sold a lot more tickets for that rating, but the MPAA, said, well, you get an R, you get a hard R for this 1 minute in the film. And so let's play that clip.
No, Mom's gonna do the turkey. Yeah, Dad wants ambrosia, so I guess we gotta get those miniature marshmallows. And I'll do the crescent rolls, and you do the cranberries. You know I can't cook. Oh. Yeah, well, I'll see you tomorrow then. Gobble, gobble. Oh, bye-bye. Welcome to Marathon. May I help you?
Yes.
How may I help you?
You can start by wiping that fucking dumbass smile off your rosy fucking cheeks. Then you can give me a fucking automobile, a fucking Datsun, a fucking Toyota, a fucking Mustang, a fucking Buick, 4 fucking wheels and a seat.
I really don't care for the way you're speaking to me.
And I really don't care for the way your company left me in the middle of fucking nowhere with fucking keys to a fucking car that isn't fucking there. And I really didn't care to fucking walk down a fucking highway and across a fucking runway to get back here to have you smile at my fucking face. I want a fucking car right fucking now.
May I see your rental agreement?
I threw it away.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy, what?
You're fine.
Oh, my
You
God.
can start by wiping that fucking dumbass smile off your rosy fucking cheeks. Just, right?
Who knew the word fuck could be just so inspirational?
It's versatile, man. It's a very versatile word.
It really is.
I just like, you can give me you can give me a fucking Mustang, a fucking Datsun, a fucking Buick, 4 fucking wheels and a seat. That's 4 fucking wheels in a seat. It's so good. But yeah, the whole thing is a great bit. Man. And of course, she ends with, let me see your rental agreement. And he threw it away. It's like, oh, well, you're fucked. And so it's a very well written bit. But before we keep going, we're going to take a little break. So let's turn it over to Jordan, the tall guy, Schmidt, to find out what he's been and what you should be watching. And we'll be back right after this.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
From a deep, dark cavern in suburban New Jersey, this is Notes from the Tall Guy. I'm Jordan Schmidt, no, not that one, and for the last few years I've been on an ongoing mission to document curious observations amidst the seemingly friendly confines of mainstream cinema, or mainly streamed cinema. These are my latest findings. Watchmen the movie should not have to be overshadowed or resuscitated by Watchmen the show. I have yet to see the show, and until recently I'd yet to see the movie, but upon a viewing that came far too late, I can respectfully say that Watchmen the film, the 2009 one as opposed to the 1973 one, directed by Roger Corman and never shown, is routinely excellent, with enough cinematic flair from Zack Snyder and enough lack of pretentiousness to keep me satisfied throughout the entirety of the thing. Well, not the entirety, I mean, the performance of Matthew Good as Ozymandias left me wanting a bit more, and by a bit more, I mean Jeremy Irons. I don't care if I'm spoiling it. It's not like you'll be able to find me. I also could have done without the gratuitous and meaningless sex scene in the middle of the film, but other than that, as a fan of the graphic novel, I was thoroughly impressed and wish the rest of Zack Snyder's filmography could have been anywhere as good. I will be looking forward with bated breath to watching every episode of Damon Lindelof's HBO adaptation. Yorgos Lanthimos is what you'd get if Wes Anderson had a punk rock phase in high school. I say this not only to give you the image of Wes Anderson dutifully listening to Black Flag or The Misfits, but to heap praise upon Lanthimos a year or so after a fellow Monster Kid's words on killing of a sacred deer caused the entire country of Greece to declare war on New York City. The Lobster, another one I'd seen far too late, came after a viewing of The Favorite in theaters. The Favorite was one of my favorites of last year for some very obvious reasons. The Lobster is right up there with it. I really appreciated the way Lanthimos structured the film, sort of keeping the first half sparingly different from the second in terms of tone, in terms of characters used. I also like the way he used an ensemble cast, especially John C. Reilly and Ben Whishaw, and eventually Rachel Weisz, who I'm finding is a lot better in projects like these. I also truly appreciated Lanthimos' amazingly shocking ending, which rivaled that of The Favorite in terms of how it'll stick in my memory for the foreseeable future. Why something so hopeless can be seen on the usually homogenized Netflix baffles me, and will continue to. The feel-good movie of the week is Local Hero, a 1983 Bill Forsyth film, usually not talked about outside of Scotland. Not sure why, as it's a delight, especially considering that a young Peter Capaldi gives a breathtakingly energetic performance, and Peter Riegert, better known for Animal House and The Mask and being a supporting actor when he should have been leading more often, has a really good leading role, as well as having Burt Lancaster just do his thing, which I'm totally fine with. It's a delight and more people should know about it. What got me to leave my house this week was, well, obviously, Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. I generally liked this movie. I say this as a Star Wars fan and as a general enjoyer of things that are good. I liked the character work in this one. I liked the characters. I liked seeing Palpatine again. I liked seeing Lando Calrissian again. I liked all the things that went into making this a really good final part. And it saddens me that my opinion is sort of small cry in a sea of loud anger against Disney and Star Wars for making a film like this. And finally, I am pleased to announce that John Mulaney can literally do no wrong. The man put out a family special based on the Sesame Street of the early 70s with children, David Byrne, and a cast of people that most children wouldn't even recognize. And even that's amazing. If you want to feel good about yourself, which I imagine you do, see John Mulaney and the Sack Lunch Bunch on Netflix, please, I beg of you. Those are my findings. Whether or not they're enough to satisfy my longing for cinematic nirvana, I've yet to fully comprehend. But, if anything, these film experiences are enough to keep me wanting more like them. Until then, I certainly haven't been Jordan Schmidt, and you most certainly cannot find me on @TallGuySchmidt on Twitter or Jordan Schmidt on Letterboxd, and that's all I have to say for this week.
All right, so we're back. Neil he has this guy flag down a cab for him at the airport. So, oh yeah, where are you going? Chicago. Chicago. You know you're in St. Louis? Yes, I do. Why don't you try the airlines? It's a lot faster and you get a free meal. If I wanted a joke, I'd follow you into the John and watch you take a leak. It's just
that's awesome.
He's just not having any jokes. Even he's like, "Are you gonna help me? Or are you just gonna stand there like a slab of meat with mittens?" And the guy clocks him right in the face. It's great. and he's almost hit by this car, and out steps the car. Dell.
Oh,
Hey, Dell. We're back again. And the guy is telling him to get his car out of there. And he's like, okay, I'll move my car, but you help him up. And he's, my pleasure. He picks him up with his nuts. And we get some more great tunes, man. They start playing this nice little instrumental rendition of Red River Valley. Remember Tombstone?
I was like, what's that from?
Yeah. Oh, Josephine Marcus sang it like in one of the, like at the Oriental or something like that. But it's fun. And Dell's just excited. So, I knew our paths would cross again. And we get some good acting from Steve Martin here, like just in his eyes and in his posture and everything. Like he's still recovering from that, from the punch and from being picked up by his nuts.
That's going to leave some PTSD for sure.
So you have any idea how glad I am I didn't kill you? You have any idea how glad I'd be if you had? His voice is pitched up. And like these scenes at night when they're on the highway, these were filmed in Central California, and they had to bring in some fake snow to the sides of the road to make it look like it was, winter in the Midwest. Because apparently they just had a really hard time finding snow for this movie. But it's Neil's turn to drive, and Dale can't get the car seat adjusted just right. And he's upset that he can't reach his shoes to take his shoes off. And he's like, that's all right. I don't care to breathe your foot out or leave the shoes on.
Okay. All right. Side note here. Do you ever get that experience where you're cleaning out your car and then you get back in it and you're like, wait, this seat is different. It's not where it was. Wait, what did I have? Like the level of the seat and the way you had it is not the same.
Yeah. It just doesn't feel right.
Frustration?
Yeah. So you're trying to find that. You feel like you're not in that sweet spot anymore. And so you've got to find your way back. And so you're really hyper focused on finding that sweet spot again. But it seems so elusive in the moment because you were there and now you're not there anymore.
Gosh. So stupid.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
I know. But this is, classic, I can't get comfortable if I got my shoes on.
It's so relatable.
Yeah. And Dale's like, well, there's a lot of things that bother me about you. So, all right, well, fine, name one. So, okay, you play with your balls a lot. I do not play with my balls. So Larry Bird doesn't do as much ball handling in one night as you do in an hour. So are you trying to start a fight? No, I'm just saying you fidget with your nuts a lot. It's great. Yeah, I know people do this absentmindedly, but there are people that I know that they do it a lot. Like it's almost distracting. Like you're in a meeting or something, and you're like somebody's just going to town on their junk.
Oh my God!
And I'm the kind of person where I have kind of this. Like my vision is driven by curiosity. So if something is going on that shouldn't be, or something is just catching my attention, like that's where my eyes go. And God, now I got to turn away. But then your eyes starts twitching a little bit. Like I want to look because this is not right.
Well, curiosity killed the cat.
Oh yeah. So you know what would make me happy? So another set of balls and an extra set of fingers. And Dale's just having fun now. Like, he's back in high spirits. Like he's just, he lives for the adventure, like he's just happy to be there.
Right.
And if he can make a few jokes at Neil's expense, like, he even feels, I think it's all in good fun. And so Dale it's his turn to drive again. And of course, the passenger seat is broken. It's like, you broke the seat. You broke the goddamn seat. And it's like, how do you break a car seat? It's impossible. And this thing is going all over the place. Like he gets squashed on the windshield and everything. And he's like, I'm going to put my wallet in the glove compartment. Don't let me forget it. And so he tries to get some shut eye. Meanwhile, Dell is jamming out to some Ray Charles, man. He's smoking his cigarette. He's playing air piano and the air sax. And he's just having a good time. And he pitches his cigarette out, but it doesn't get out of the car. It bounces off the window and it lands in the back seat. And of course, it's still lit. And Dell is trying to take his jacket off, his parka. And long story short, the hoops on the sleeves get caught on the seat adjustment knobs. And he's trying to steer with his legs and finally comes to a stop and gets them on the wrong side of the road. And this car in the other lane, the correct lane, is trying to flag them down and try to get their attention. Neil's like, hey, I think they want something. Dale's like, that Joker wants to race. And it's like, oh, he's probably drunk. And this couple is screaming at him, you're going the wrong way. And Dale's like, oh, he's drunk. How would he know where we're going? Now, I like that Neil kind of agrees with him. He's like, yeah, how would he know? Thank you. Thanks a lot. They're telling him they're going in the wrong direction. And it doesn't occur to Neil until he looks down. And I think he sees, what is it, just like the curb or something like that? Like or the line on the side of the road. Anyway, something.
The line on the side of the road. Yeah.
And it occurs to him, oh shit, they're right. We're on the wrong side of the road. And so these two semis are headed right at him, and they're able to squeeze the car right between them.
Yeah, that was a good scene.
It's a good scene, especially this little bit here where, like, just for a moment, we cut to them and they're skeletons.
Right.
and what I like best though is that the Dale skeleton like has the little goatee on it, like on the skeleton, and then we see Dale as the devil. There's all these flames. He's ha 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 ha. He's got the horns and everything. And it's just like, it's
priceless.
Just how like he sees, how Neil sees Dell is, we can really understand like you're like, this guy is just getting us he's getting me in so much trouble, and in the worst situations, he's the devil.
Right. And we see it visually now. It was phenomenal.
Yeah, it was good. That skeleton thing reminded me of, you remember that scene in was it Home Alone 2, Lost in New York, when Marv he gets electrocuted, and there's like a freeze frame where you see, it's pretty much the same thing. You see the skeleton of Marv, but he's got the hair and the little beard, like the beard on the skeleton. I don't know.
It's an interesting shot, because you don't see it like at all anywhere.
Yeah.
So you're just like, oh, wow.
Yeah, it's the only time. But it also is like, come on, like, we're just having fun here. You can't take this too seriously.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't mind it all that much. I mean, the skeletons are kind of scary. It used to freak me out a little bit as a kid. So when the car comes to a stop, their fingernails are buried in the dashboard, and they're struggling to pull their fingernails out. And they pull over to the shoulder, and the damage. They're like, oh, this isn't too bad. We should be able to buff this out in no time. So Dell's just like, wow. I mean, that was close. I mean, we can laugh about it now. We're all right. And Neil's just like, the whole car is just, it's awful shape. So Dell's getting stuff out, is like luggage out of the road that fell off the station wagon. And this is where we get that, oh, my back. Oh, and so Neil has to go help him. They take a rest on the trunk, Dell's trunk. And behind them is the car, which bursts into flames. And they both look back, like one at a time and then together. They just can't stop laughing. It was almost expected. It wasn't even surprising, right?
Right.
And Dell reveals he had used Neil's credit card to rent the car because it was swapped. Their cards were swapped while they were at the Braidwood Inn. And he accuses Dell of stealing it because Neil couldn't understand, like, how did Dell rent that car if he didn't have any money? And Dell says, okay, well, when we stopped at the gas stop, I put the card back in your wallet, which is in the glove box, which is on fire. And Neil just punches him in the gut, and it's very deserved. I mean,
oh yeah,
Dell had good intentions, but he's right. And he tries to defend himself, saying, well, you didn't give me your address, so I didn't know how to pay you back I was going to pay you back for the train ticket plus interest, but you just ditched me. And again, a lot of that's coming out now where Dell feels like he's been cast aside or, been pushed.
Not as important anymore.
Right. He said, yeah, you just ditched me. The car gets them to this motel somehow. It's smoldering still. And Neil says, get your own room. And so this clerk, do you recognize him?
Familiar face. Actually, it's so many familiar faces in the movie. But yeah. Yeah,
he's the lawyer from Jurassic Park that gets eaten while he's on the toilet. Yeah, that's this guy.
Yep. Oh my god, so many faces.
Yeah. So Neil pulls out his credit cards, and they're just, I mean, they're melted. They're just like little black cards, and he's like, well, I have a Diners, Visa, and a gasoline card. And the guy's just like, these aren't credit cards.
Yeah, you can't use them. I'm sorry, buddy.
Somehow Neil has some cash. I don't really know how he got this.
Where did he get the cash?
Yeah, where did he? I don't know if this was some money left over from Dell's hustle in the airport when he saw those shower curtain rings, because he mentioned that they made like $100 or so. So maybe that was from that, perhaps. The room is $42.50. He has $17, and the clerk's like, I can't do that. He's like, please, sir, I've been wearing the same underwear since Tuesday. And Dell's like, I can vouch for that. He's like, all right, well, how about $17 and a hell of a nice watch? Deal is done. Neil goes to his hotel room, and Dell's just kind of standing by, and he's like, okay, well, I actually have a slight problem. I don't have the $42.50. Scott, do you have $17 and a good watch? No, I don't. I have $2 and a Casio. He's like running it over his wrist, like he's showcasing it. Like, ooh, what do you think about this Casio? And he's like, I'm gonna have to say goodnight, sir. So poor Dell he stays in the car. He's all bundled up because the car is burnt to the extent that it's like a convertible, like it has no top on it. And it's snowing, and he's talking to his wife / himself. He's saying he's a big pain in the ass, got a big mouth, and really wishes she was there. Neil looks out and he sees him and invites him in. He's like, you're going to freeze to death out there. So this is one of my favorite moments, like in their friendship, because they connect in a very authentic sort of way. I think Neil's very authentic here. Like it looks like they've raided the vending machines and the mini bar. They're just getting drunk and just talking, to the wives. They're a little tipsy, but they're finally able to look back at everything and just laugh at it all. Like, so, like the car on fire. It's like, oh, it's like the little grill marks on my ass. Just can't stop laughing.
Right.
I love it that Neil's like, why do I feel like I'm at summer camp? He's right. It has that vibe to it, where they're just hanging out, eating snacks and drinking these little bottles of whiskey and vodka and stuff. And so they go to bed. Next morning, they give the car a good push, reverses the car right into the motel lobby window, and we're back on the road again. And this is pretty cool because they're driving along and they're singing Blue Moon of Kentucky, which is really great. And which I'm sure was no stranger to Steve Martin, because he's an accomplished,
of course,
banjo player, and so I'm sure the bluegrass and stuff like that was really familiar to him. But so they're singing it together, and they get pulled over, and this cop is played by Michael McKean, who he receives fourth billing. He's fourth in the credits, but he's only in this scene, and he's on screen for 90 seconds.
I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, I mean, of course, most people know him from Spinal Tap. I mean, he's a great actor. He's been in so much stuff. He's had a great career. But yeah, he just asked him, like, what the hell are you driving here? So they were going 78, and he's like, I can't let you go in this vehicle. It's not safe for the road. And Dale's like, oh, I admit it, officer. I did it. I screwed up. But I got to get my friend home for Thanksgiving dinner. The car's not much to look at, but the radio still works. Clear as a bell. At least the radio works.
That's what matters.
What matters, yeah. So they make it to, I think, the courthouse or something. The car is impounded.
It was the courthouse.
Yeah. Dell's got them hitching along on this semi. He said it's free and nonstop. The driver, I can't think of the actor's real name, but he's Roger Podacter from Ace Ventura. You just see him from like a second, not even a second. But I'm like, yeah, that's that guy. And of course, they have to ride in the back of a refrigerated truck because the driver he's uncomfortable with people sitting in his cab. And so they make it to this train platform, and Neil says, I hope there isn't a next time. But, it's been great. You got me home, and I'm a little wiser too. And they hug it out. Happy Thanksgiving and all that. So long. And Dell is left alone again on the platform. And he just has this what now look on his face. Like, I think John Candy in that moment, like part of his performance there was that sense of, like, he doesn't have anything, like it's just like the traveling and all that, like that's been a part of his life. Like it's all about the journey, and there's never really been a destination, I don't think.
And that, you can use that phrase for life itself, which is what's even better about this movie.
Yeah.
Is that it's basically life.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. And I think that this is where, so Neil, as he's on the train, he's thinking about his 3 kids and the pie and turkey and candles. He's licking his lips and remembering these adventures he's had. This is done really well because he's looking fondly back on these adventures and having a laugh, and as, oh, that was embarrassing. You can just see it on his face. But he's also thinking back on some of the darker moments, like the things that that he said to Dell that were hurtful, and you can tell he regrets that, and he's thinking back on Dell talking about his wife and not having been home for years, and something occurs to him. He knows something isn't right. He backtracks to the station, and Dell is there. He's like, Dell, what are you doing here? You said you were going home. Dell says, I don't have a home. Marie's been dead for 8 years. And it's a punch in the gut, man.
Yeah, it is.
What do you think about this? Like so that we're learning something about Dell that we did, we see him as the funny, jovial, bombastic type of personality, and here we see him quiet and lonely. Or there's something. I feel like there's something to that.
In my opinion, with this, he found a lot of himself with his wife. So she dies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he said 8 years, which is, oh my God. I don't know if they just randomly wanted to plug that in, but 8 years is a long time.
Yeah.
Like it may seem short for some people, but like with a marriage and then death, 8 years can be forever for somebody.
Right. And we don't really know. We don't know why he doesn't have a home. And we could speculate all day. We could say that her death was just too much and he didn't want to be in that house anymore. So he sold it and just decided, he's a traveling salesman. He doesn't need one. He doesn't it's not a necessity for him. Like that, he's perfectly satisfied with, just being nomadic to some extent and living out of that trunk. I love this next shot. I love it. It's both of them are carrying Dell's trunk to Neil's house, and there's this great cover of Every Time You Go Away playing, and it crashes in on that shot where they're carrying that trunk, and it's just so good. They're helping each other out. They're doing good stuff. And they're finally home, or Neil's finally home. The family's all there. What I don't understand, though, this is a little nitpick, is that Neil tells Dell that you got me home a few days late, but he made it. But yet everybody's there for Thanksgiving. So I'm a little confused. The movie it starts off 2 days before Thanksgiving. So do you think that they made it on time? Because the extended family is there. Maybe it is Thanksgiving. Maybe he just happened to make it there on time. Maybe when Neil said to Dell that you got me home a few days late, meaning a few days later than I intended, like he was supposed to be there a few days ago, but he just made it in time for Thanksgiving dinner.
It was Thanksgiving, just in time.
And so the family's all there, and Neil is introducing them to Dell. His wife descends the stairs. They hug and kiss, and then there's this freeze frame on Dell. And this is pretty great. Like they make a big point of introducing Dell Neil says, I want you to meet a friend of mine. One, we're telegraphing to the audience that they're buddies now. Like they made it to that point where Neil is comfortable saying, hey, I want you to meet a friend of mine. And I don't know, it's really sweet. I got a little choked up there. But
yeah, of course.
But we don't know that he has told his wife Dale's name, but she just, when he says, I want you to meet a friend of mine, she just says, hello, Mr. Griffith, and hello, Mrs. Page. And it's like she doesn't know him, but there's something in that moment that she recognizes that, hey, you got my husband home.
Yeah.
So,
yep, that's it. That's
right.
And
the ending here is a little weird because it feels like there needs to be, I feel like it needed something else. I don't know, but we end on this freeze frame on Dell, and he's like gripping his hat in his hands and gushing at the love that Neil and his wife have. We fade to black on that, and then we roll credits. But then after the credits, you probably didn't stay for this. I actually didn't know this was here until I watched it.
I did not know about this. No.
Yeah, so there's like an after credit. There's a post credit scene in this movie. So after the credits, the marketing exec from the beginning of the movie is still trying to make a decision about those ads. And so, I mean, we don't need it.
That's
yeah,
cute.
We don't need it. I don't really care, clearly, because I didn't know it existed. But nevertheless, that's part of the movie. But yeah, that's Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, everybody. It was a lot of fun. It's a great film. But what do you think, Joseph? You got any final thoughts?
Yeah, without putting into any dissertation here, I want to point out that if you have not seen this movie, Brandon and I, we both highly recommend seeing it because it is 99.9% comedy. Everything about it is very well done in terms of screenplay. The directing is phenomenal, and the actors deserve every bit of praise. Steve Martin. I mean, you can't say anything else about him. He's classic.
Yeah.
And so overall, like you said, at the end of this movie, holy shit, it kind of brings you from a laughing high into a very sentimental ground zero emotional state.
Yeah.
It was very well done.
I totally agree with you, man. I think that the writing is really good, and it reminds me in a way of, or I feel about it in the same way as I do something like Drop Dead Fred. Like, you've got something that is on the surface purely comedic value, but it has heart. Like, this film, it has a lot of emotional weight to it that pays off in a very, very interesting sort of way, because it's not telegraphed to the audience like how they're supposed to feel. I mean, they're just kind of told, like, these are jokes, this is what's funny. But really, it's like we are traveling along with these two guys who are trying to get along and to put differences aside. It's about them finding, I guess, learning something about themselves. I think that Neil changes. Like, he has a character arc where he becomes more cognizant of how, like I said, judgmental or how uptight he can be. And Dell, I don't think does, in the sense that he is who he is. Like, he tells Neil, like, or what you see is what you get. And I'm not changing. And that's what I like about him, is that he is his own person, and he's not ashamed of that. But yeah, so anyway, all that to say that we have some really wonderful characters that we love to be around and to see what kinds of adventures they're going to get into. But it's also, there are a lot of human moments about friendship and acceptance and not even tolerance, but being able to appreciate someone being different from you and finding some common ground. And I don't know, there's something about it that still resonates with me today. Absolutely. I wholeheartedly recommend seeing this because it's one of my favorites. So go check it out. But before we wrap up, I think Joseph has some shout outs.
Yeah, that is correct. So, ladies and gentlemen, I usually do podcast recommendations, because we all love podcasts here. That's why we do this. I mean, this is a podcast. So, but, I'm switching over to movie recommendations for a little bit here for our next few episodes. Yeah.
What you got?
I was going to do Hostiles 2017 with Christian Bale. Guys, it's a great movie. Totally recommend it. But now that, I settled into this vibe in this episode, and I've totally switched minds during this episode of what I'd like to do for y'all. And so the movie I'm recommending is 1917.
Oh.
Yes. Go see it, please. It's by no means comical, but it is in the same vibe with those two characters and getting to know these two characters. You start off with two characters, you get to know these two characters very, very well. It's directed by Sam Mendes. The actors, I mean, holy crap. George McKay, Dean Charles Chapman, they're the two characters you really get to know. Richard Madden, he's towards the end of the film, but he's also in this new show called Bodyguard. It's on Netflix. It's amazing. Benedict Cumberbatch, we all know. Colin Firth, Andrew Scott, Mark Strong. Like, these guys are the shit.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you just mentioned Mark Strong and Andrew Scott. Really, really like him. Like him in Sherlock.
Yes, exactly. And Cumberbatch and Colin Firth. Yeah. I mean, Colin Firth, these guys are the real deal. Absolutely beautiful. And highly recommend it, y'all. Go see it.
Nice. Well, since you're throwing out some movie recommendations, I haven't seen 1917 yet, so it's on my list to check out. But recently, I've been to the movies a lot. I got to see Bad Boys for Life, which was a lot of fun. It feels right at home in the universe of Bad Boys and Bad Boys 2, and it's just absurd. I mean, you've got these Miami cops, but they're driving Porsches and they have penthouses and all that. So. But anyway, that's a lot of fun. Uncut Gems is really good. It's a really well-made film. Adam Sandler, it's his best performance rather.
Wow.
Really, really great. But my favorite of last year is Jojo Rabbit. I think that movie is just masterfully done. It's laugh out loud funny at times, but it's also just like punch in the gut, tragic at times. And so I definitely recommend for everyone to see that. Probably more than anything else. Jojo Rabbit's the way to go.
Yeah, I heard really good things about that
one.
Man.
Yeah.
And now, coming soon to video cassette.
So next time, we're going to be talking about A Knight's Tale, and that's going to be over on Patreon. So stay tuned, and we'll announce when that is out over on Twitter. And we have moved the Patreon shout out to the end. Apologies, but we wanted to make a nice little spot for Jordan Schmidt there in the middle. So let's give a nice little special shout out to our patrons who support the show over on Patreon. We've got Mondo, Pete, Colin, Mike, Jack, Lewis, Test Pattern, a horror movie podcast, Bloody in Love, James, Ryan M, and Ryan S. Thank you all from the bottom of our hearts for supporting our show.
You guys are the bomb.com, man. Let's get it. Thanks, guys.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. And so we'll have that episode of A Knight's Tale out to you as soon as possible. And if you are interested in becoming a patron of the show, go to patreon.com/VericonVideo for more information.
Remember to rate and review the show on iTunes. If you have questions, suggestions, or just want to tell Brandon and Joseph what you think of the show, send them an email at vericonvideo@gmail.com or call the Vericon Video hotline at 312-620-5560. They are also on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Vericon Video. Thank you for listening, and stay tuned for Brandon and Joseph's next chat about another exciting movie from the rental era. So long, and peace out.
Goodbye, Vietnam! That's right. I'm history. I'm out of here. I got the lucky ticket home, baby.
Okay, bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Jenny.
Bye-bye, boys.
Have fun storming the castle. Goodbye.
Do take good care of yourself.
What is this, your farewell speech? Going home. Have a good trip.
Hasta la vista, baby. I have to go.
Adieu, auf Wiedersehen, Gesundheit.